Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering natural health on your Wednesday morning Rise and Shine. And this morning here, we're doing an important topic here. We're looking at the marijuana devastating effects, and just some report about what I believe will be an increased narrative in the United States as more and more states legalize marijuana and bring it online for the general public and especially young people and old people. So this is what's happening here. So we want to cover this morning here. So top of the morning to you. Welcome to our live talk program. Hopefully you had a blessed night rest and you're ready for today. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, we thank thee again for the wisdom that you give us from on high. We thank you for the blessings that you bestow in our lives, and we pray, dear Father, that you may be with us as we study and look at these things, and may they guide us, dear Lord, in our lifestyle, the choices and decisions that we make. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. So this morning again here, we're looking at marijuana, devastating effects. So the effects of marijuana, as you know, this is the new excitement here that's going on in our society. And as this spread, we will see more and more effects, and we'll get a clearer picture, especially in America, because of the massive medical research system and the data collecting that is done from the hospital level or the medical level. So marijuana and its devastating effects is what we are not only covering, but we're kind of predicting what's coming down the pike. Now, I start off by reading Revelation chapter 18, verse 23. Revelation 18, verse 23. And it states, "And the light of the candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall be heard no more in thee." Let me just adjust something here real quickly. And then I'm going to restart that reading. Do apologize. And just for you to know that, we were away and I got back over the weekend. And so I'm glad to be doing this again. I was playing replays. So anyhow, I start back again by reading Revelation chapter 18, Revelation 18, verse 23. "And the light of the candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, and by thy sorceries were all the nations deceived." Now, I always point this out here that in Revelation chapter 18, verse 23, the word sorceries there is, if you look at the root word in Greek, you get the word pharmakia. Pharmakia is where we get our modern titling of what we do when we sell drugs from pharmacies. Pharmacies or pharmacists sell drugs, pharmakia. And this was always connected with what we call old world witchcraft. If you think about old world witchcraft, you can see a picture or image of a witch over a cauldron and a brew, and she's stirring that brew. And normally she puts various different things together, cook it down, and you drink it. And when you drink it, you get an altered state of mind, which is what we believe is an hallucinogenic. You can see this in various different culture. Like if you go to Brazil and various different places around the world, they would give you a brew, and the shaman will give you a brew. And this will make you hallucinate and get into an altered state of mind and be able to connect with spiritual beings. This is still done today. It's done here in America. It's done in various different parts of the world. If you connect with those who are Rastaman or Rastafarians, they will normally give you like something like marijuana, and you drink it, and then you're connected to the higher power. So this was always something that was done in worship, but this was normally viewed in the Bible as example of this. Same word turns up in Galatians chapter 5. And if you read Galatians chapter 5, and it says, witchcraft, sorcery, that's the word. The root word there is pharmakia, where we get pharmacists. Because witchcraft always is connected with brews that altered the state of mind, altered your consciousness, and somehow put you in connecting with spiritual beings. And so this is predicted in Revelation 18, verse 23, that this will be a state of what we call Babylon in the last days. And as you know, one of the most interesting things is that drug has become so normal in our society that it's just part of what we do. Legal drugs, illegal drugs, various different type of drugs, whether it be tobacco, marijuana, opiates, so forth. And when you think about the level of drug use in America, it is astonishing the volume of people that use drugs, altered psychoactive drugs, primarily I'm talking about here, on a daily basis. And so here the Bible says that this was going to just be one of the ways the nations are deceived. Because remember, part of using drugs is to alter the the mindset or the mind. When the mind is altered, your reasoning becomes skewed. Reason why is because, again, when you take the drugs, it affects the way you perceive things, not the way things are. It doesn't change facts. It just changes the way you interpret the facts, and it gives you an altered experience. So your consciousness is thrown off, and this is where people are easily deceived. And I've been predicting that more and more you'll find, like in the old world paganism, that in the Christian churches, drug use and worship will become synonymous. And I'm hearing more and more that that prediction is coming through, because that's what the Bible said will happen. Before I keep going, I'm going to read one more text to you, and then I'm going to go straight into two articles I have to share with you, and then some more things that are going on in our society when it comes on to marijuana. Remember, we're covering marijuana devastating effect in society, and I'll tell you why I believe this is the reality in a second. Now, the next text I want to share with you here is in Genesis chapter 3 and verse 6. Genesis 3 verse 6 is speaking about Eve. It says, "And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise." Think about that, to make one wise. Continue reading. "She took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat." And he did eat. Now, what's happening there? The perception of the fruit altered based upon the philosophy. See, if you look at certain things like a tree bark, and you don't have a philosophy that goes with using that tree bark, you would never cut the tree bark, put it in some water, cook it, and then drink the water. Because in your mind, why would you do that? Your philosophy doesn't make you look at it as food, or look at it as something good or desirous. But the moment your philosophy change, then all of a sudden your concepts of how you view the thing change. Now, what's important there is that when God told Adam and Eve not to eat the fruit, he said to them that says it is a tree that brings forth a fruit that will make you have an experience or a knowledge of good and evil. Now, that is the trick with all of this thing when it comes on to drug use. Is the trick is there is good in it, but there's also evil in it. But most people don't focus and say, well, wait a minute. You're saying it's good, yeah, but there's evil also. And that was a problem with Adam and Eve here. They heard that there was bad, and the devil said, well, there's good. Well, he was not really telling a lie, but it was a lie, because a lie can be not giving a person the full information. So he emphasized, per se, in a crooked way, the good part. And so for somebody who is depressed and they smoke some marijuana and they feel a little bit better, that's good. But also marijuana destroys the nerves. And so as it destroys the nervous system, there's bad. It alters the brain and the brain pathways. That's bad. So again, but everybody's focusing that it's good, or when they have this type of discussion, they just view it as totally bad. But it has good, because if it wasn't no good, then if there was no good in it, nobody would use it. But the bad, that's the question. And so when you talk about pharmakeia, remember again, we just read in Revelation 18, it's deceived. Thereby they're deceived. And so the good in it deceived the person. Because remember, after Adam and Eve took of the fruit and ate it, they had a different experience. They had a change in their perception. They view things differently. And that can be viewed as I'm going on a higher plane. Notice here that the tree was desired to make one wise. This is the way people view drugs, because it put them in a different experience. If a person take PCPs, they have more confidence. If a person take cocaine, they have more energy. They're more hyped up and amped up. So that could be desirous, because if you're a person that's a low energy person, cocaine could be your drug of choice. That's what you need. If you're a person that is too angry and you need something to sedate you, probably marijuana would help you out. So that's where the problem comes in. But all the negative, nobody want to talk about that. And so one has to find alternatives. So with that, I go to my first article here, and I share this piece here with you. I'm just grab it. And here in this article, we're looking here at it's a kind of lengthy article, so stick with me here. And it's a question. I'm gonna have some answers, but this is a question. And you'll hear more and more this type of talk as the years go by. So this is from today.com, and the title is "Did Marijuana Kill This Young Man? Doctors May Never Know for Sure." Michael Ziobro was just 22 when his mother, Christina, found him unconscious on his bedroom floor. I went to say goodnight to him, and I say goodnight to him, and I am the one who found him on the floor, Christina recalled. I called 911. They came and tried to revive him, but he was gone. The Zybros later found medical grade marijuana in Michael's room, and the medical examiner found evidence of cannabis in his blood. Christina and her husband are convinced the highly active marijuana caused Michael's heart to go into arrhythmia and kill him. It's crazy. People think, "Oh, pot can't hurt you. It's natural," says Zabrio, who live in Springfield, New Jersey. But the medical examiner said he cannot say for sure whether cannabis was involved in Michael's sudden death, and notes there's little evidence about what marijuana does or doesn't do to the heart. States are moving ahead with decriminalization or outright legalizing not just the medical use of marijuana but recreational use. Medical marijuana is legal in 28 states and in Washington D.C. Although it is illegal under federal law, and about 10% of U.S. adults consider themselves current users of the drug. At least 44% of high school seniors say they have tried cannabis, according to the National Institute of Drug Abuse, and 6% say they use it daily. So that 10% of adult, 6% of high school age kids. Advocates laud that they see an excellent safety profile for marijuana, brushing aside medical research that indicates it does have its dangers, especially in adolescent and young adults. And I'll pause there again. So remember, they're touting the benefits, although there is negatives to it. And this is the point that most people haven't really clicked into. They're so focused on, well, it has positives, that they don't understand that it's a tree of knowledge of good and evil. But what is the evil? Keep reading here. Advocates so the Zabrios say their son was among those hurt by a drug they thought was perfectly safe. He was such an advocate, Christina said. He thought it was a wonderful. He thought it was safe. He just thought it was natural and organic, and it ended up killing him. There's limited evidence on the benefits of marijuana. The gold standard for medicine is that the benefits of any treatment should outweigh the risk, but researchers say federal restrictions on using marijuana in medical studies have handicapped their ability to assess its value and dangers. Steps are being taken toward legalization and decriminalization of marijuana in the United States, and rates of recreational marijuana use may increase substantially as a result, said Barbara Yankee of Georgia State University, who led a team that published a study this week on marijuana possible effects on the heart. However, there is little research on the impact of marijuana use on cardiovascular and cerebrovascular mortality. Yankee's study team found people who had ever used cannabis had more than triple the risk of dying from high blood pressure compared to people who have never used it. So just pause there again. So right there, there's a new study that came out this week that's stating that you triple your risk of high blood pressure just by using marijuana. So let me just pause here and just I just want you to think about that. Here is something that is a sedative. It's something that's supposed to calm you down, relax you, put you in that zone. But at the same time, it increases 3 times more your risk of having high blood pressure. So that is fascinating because remember, it's a tree of knowledge of good and evil. Remember, with most drugs, you will recall that most drugs they can cause the same thing that they're treating. It can cause the same problem. So you could have psychosis. You take a drug for psychosis and it causes psychosis. You could have paranoid delusions. You take a drug to stop the delusions and it increases the delusions. So that's concept here that is good and evil. It's supposed to give you life, make you wise, but it make you stupid. And for me, my personal experiences, as I've observed it, I've never really met somebody that's a long-term regular user of marijuana, that their mental faculty increases and they get wise. Normally, they get more foolish because you're going to see in a second as we keep going. So their study published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology has many limitations and relies on survey of people who may have smoked marijuana just once in their life, but it highlights the lack of solid data. Support for liberal marijuana use is partly due to the claim that it is beneficial and possibly not harmful to health, Yankee said in a statement. Christina Ziobro thinks the push to make cannabis more available could endanger vulnerable people. I just think people are glossing over everything that's going on with marijuana, she says. Michael Ziobro's death certificate does not list cannabis as the cause of death, and Union County Medical Examiner Dr. Junaid Sheikh said he cannot say what caused the young man's heart to start beating so erratically that it stopped. Victor and Christina Ziobro are unhappy with the explanation and ask state legislators as well as the police to investigate. Although there is scarce research that indicates smoking cannabis can evoke cardiovascular complication, one is unable to attribute the cause of death was due to smoking cannabis, Sheikh wrote in a letter to the New Jersey State Senator Thomas Keene after an inquiry. In my opinion, it is highly warranted that family members consult a geneticist and possibly consider cardiovascular genetic testing for hereditary cause of cardiac arrhythmia, Sheikh says. Added in the letter which the Zobros provided to NBC News. His office did not immediately respond to NBC's request for further comment. Christina says the family is following that advice. They have a daughter also, but she says the marijuana they found was highly potent. She notes the study have shown the marijuana available to the public is indeed become stronger. Marijuana available in dispensaries can have THC, the psychoactive ingredient in marijuana, content well above 20%, even higher in concentration as opposed to the 3 to 5% that is typically of the wild plant. Dr. Rosalie Pakula at the Rand Corporation in Santa Monica, California, said in a statement posted on the website of the National Institute of Drug Abuse. So I'm just going to pause there. So here is a product or a plant that in the wild it's about 3 to 5% THC. So this is the cannabinoid or cannabinol that is in the marijuana. This is what normally make a person smoke the plant. 3 to 5% in the wild. So you go to the plant, 3 to 5% in the wild. So if you haven't been following they've been coming up with various different strands of marijuana, and the more they blend them and the more they do their thing in the lab, or in the, what you would call it now, in the in the farms or so forth, they're coming up with more potent grades where the THC is so concentrated that it's almost like you're taking just a straight THC, but you're smoking it. But anyhow, it's only 20%. So this is not even a plant that you find in the wild. More and more, this stuff is becoming so potent that very many people who are smokers say they can't even use certain strands of the marijuana because it gets them all kind of psychoactive results, negative results, because they're so potent. So this is part of it. So even when somebody says, remember earlier, the mother Christina was saying the young man thought that it was natural, it was organic, and all that type of stuff. But this is not even anything that remotely look like what's going on in nature. More on that later. So Zobrio provided image of the 2-packet marijuana found in Michael's room. They were labeled as having a THC concentration of 28% and 24%. So 28 and 24%. Imagine you have a plant and the active ingredient is almost 30%, 25 to 30% almost of the active ingredient. That leaf of the plant is just filled with THC. The amount of THC in marijuana has been increasing steadily over the past few decades. NIDA, this is the National Institute of Drug Abuse. For a person who is new to marijuana use, this may mean exposure to higher THC level with a greater chance of harmful reaction. Higher THC level may explain the rise in emergency room visits involving marijuana use. This can raise the rate of heart attack. The NIDA state one of the National Institute of Health maintained marijuana raises heart rate for up to 3 hours after smoking. This effect may increase the chance of heart attack, it says. So for 3 hours after smoking marijuana, the heart rate goes up. I would even imagine that the higher the THC, the higher the possibility of this type of thing. Because remember, you're taking something that could make you have type of mania. And so anything that will make you feel like you could be panicking, any type of drugs, I don't care what type of drugs it is, will raise the rate of the heart. If it does, because some things can make it go up and something make it go down, this will long-term damage the body. That's why so many people die of heart attack, but they're really dying of cocaine use. Marijuana raises heart rate for up to 3 hours after smoking. This effect may increase the chances of heart attack. Zibro said she simply wants people to know about the risk. Michael smoked pot to help with painful irritable bowel syndrome symptoms. She said there's no hard medical evidence to support that use. However, Dr. Michael Boswick, psychiatrist at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, says people who like the effect of marijuana may indeed find benefit from using it. It's psychoactive, so even if it doesn't cure what you have got, it may make you feel different, he said. Again, I have to pause here because I just want to show you how this stuff works. Remember, anything that is psychoactive, that will change your perception, could make you feel good, not because you're better, you're doing physically better, but because you think you're doing better, because it deceives you into think you're doing better. This is the same way any drugs work and any alcohol work. Alcohol is literally liquid drugs. And when you understand that, you understand a person that is depressed is nothing changed in their lives. It's just that the drug altered the way they think about their problems. It makes the problem fly away. And when the drugs wear off, the problem fly back in. That's just the reality. It's like you have a buzzard in your life, and the buzzard, you smoke the marijuana, the buzzard leave. But the whole time you smoked it, the buzzard was right there on your windowsill or on your kitchen table. And the moment the marijuana wear off, or the buzzard is back, you'll be like, wow. So you associate smoking marijuana and buzzard disappearing. And so you keep smoking it because you want the buzzer to go away. But there's no change in the appearance or the disappearance of the buzzer. The buzzer is always there. So whatever problems the person is going through in life, it doesn't go away. It's just their perception. It makes them feel like the problem is gone because it is deceptive. It changes your perception. So again, it's psychoactive. Again, I'm reading it again for you. So even if it doesn't cure what you have got, it makes you feel different. I think there are people who like how it makes you feel, but that doesn't translate into proof of any conditions. We have many anecdotes and groups of people who report amazing benefits, but we don't have, in most cases, rigorous study to confirm that. Boswick says there is plenty of reasons to think marijuana could have therapeutic uses. Cells all over the body have receptors, a kind of biological doorway for many of the active ingredients in cannabis. But that's also reason to believe it could have undesirable side effects. We now know that the younger you are, the greater the possibility of becoming addicted, he says. There's increasing evidence that it has effects on the developing brain, so the using of it during adolescence is bad idea, Boswick add. For people with genetic tendency to psychosis, symptoms can emerge earlier with cannabis use. That's not to say that it causes psychosis, but it aggravates it and bring it out earlier, he says. Again, for me, as a person that grew up in Jamaica, I saw this. And this is one of the problems that they're not looking at. I don't know why they're wasting so much time with this thing. All you need to do is go to Jamaica and find the amount of people that have psychosis and ask them what they were doing in their teenage years. And if you do this, you can find out that almost most of them would attribute it to marijuana use. So again, he doesn't say it causes psychosis. It aggravates it. Most actually, anything that makes you delusive and out of your mind will cause you psychosis. If something make you feel good about life or your life is not good, it's altering your perception. That ability to put you in a false perception and a false narrative will make you mad. I mean, that's just straightforward in my mind. I think that every day you use it, make you think life is better when life has not changed. It is making you mad because it's altering the way you think about life. And when you come back out of that psychosis or crazy state, life is bad again. That's just too much playing with the brain. Absolutely, you're going to damage it. And this is what I believe is causing it. This is why I think this doctor here has it right. The way Boswick says this is interesting. He simply says it doesn't cause it. It aggravates it. Because you're mad. How are you going to look at something that is a mess and say, oh, it's all good? Oh, no, man, everything is all right, man. It's all good, man. No problem, man. What do you mean it's no problem? It's things is falling apart all around you. You're crazy. As soon as it gonna make you crazy. I continue reading. In 2013, study found the brain of young heavy marijuana users were altered in subcortical regions, part of the memory and reasoning circuits. And there is no doubt it can cause dependency and addiction, NIDA and other experts says. So again, I read that for you again. It altered areas in the subcortical regions, part of the memory and reasoning circuits. Again, part of the memory and reasoning circuit, because in order, think about this now, in order again, for marijuana to have the positive effect, when, say for instance, you're in a foxhole, where you're in a terrible situation, when somebody's screaming at you. So if you're a young man, listen to me, and you're married, and say your wife screaming at you, and you feel depressed and feel worthless because she has a good reason to scream at you. And you just know that if you go behind the house and smoke some weed or some marijuana, it's like, it's like there's no problem. She stopped screaming and everything is good. That alone is telling you that something is gonna damage something, because it would have to alter your memory because you have to shut down the memory, and it has to alter your reasoning. And just taking that drug inside your system that will alter your reasoning, and all of a sudden you look at your wife and she's the sweetest, happiest person, everything is good. And yet you're looking at her face and she look mad as ever. And she was just screaming at you. And everything is fine. And all of the problems in your life, all of the worthlessness that you just did to cause her to scream at you flew away. And you're free as a bird. That is how marijuana works. It affects the part of the brain that deals with memory and the reasoning circuitry. And this is why long term you deal with people, they live as if they start to reason and talk as if they're crazy. And that's the reality. Boswick became one of the Mayo's Clinic top expert on marijuana after his son became addicted. He says his son is now sober at the age of 24 and after good treatment. The experience leaves Boswick on the fence about the benefits versus the risk of cannabis. Notice benefits and risk. Two studies conducted by Veteran Health Administration and published in the Annals of the Internal Medicine this week found little evidence that cannabis help either pain or post-traumatic stress disorder. However, other studies have shown that cannabinoids can help treat chronic pain. Again, remember, if it alters my memory and the reasoning ability of my mind, it can help with pain. At least from a perception point of view. Other studies have found cannabinoids can help reduce seizures in children with certain severe form of epilepsy. Cannabinoids pills can also help prevent and ease nausea caused by chemotherapy. So does ginger. And ginger is even better. But the drug is intoxicating, can endanger drivers, and one team of doctors found that hospital ER visits from panicked pot tourists doubled after Colorado legalized recreational marijuana. This will be people who have been badly hurt, or there will be people who claim that they have been helped. And I think both will be true, Boswick says. Boom, I would like to say, there you have it. This is why the Bible is so right. What is a mock and strong drinker is raging. And Genesis chapter 3 verse 6, you can have a positive and a negative from the same food. This is why God encourages us to only eat foods and partake of substance that only gives you a positive. But people would think, oh no, I could get both. No, you don't want both because you don't know what the both is. You the stuff that gonna make you feel better, don't feel depressed, and feel better about life, but it's not messing you up, it's not changing your memory and your reasoning. Almost there with this article before I go to the next article. It says, there will be people and our work is only as good as the studies that are done. But if they can't be done, then we really can't be definitive about anything. And so what he's saying is he want the government to ease up on the ban or the limitation of studying marijuana so they can find out what it is. But I'm telling you right here, if you look at all the research that's come out before, there will be positive and negative effect. But the positive effect can be found in other plants that does not alter the psychosis or the neurological pathways of the brain. This is why you need to find natural options. And so that's our first article. I want to go to the second article here. Don't want to waste much time because I'm running out of time. So I'll read this one text for you here. Proverbs chapter 20 verse 1. Proverbs chapter 20 verse 1 simply state that wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. Whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. So wine makes you make a mockery of yourself. So does alcohols and drugs. All alcohols and drugs do that. So does marijuana, all these things. It make you make a mockery of yourself. It causes oftentimes to be raging. People become very angry because you don't know where the drug is going to send the person. It depends on the person's neurological function. Some people get angry at drugs. And the same drugs could make a person sedated. But at the end of the day, Bible says it makes a mockery of you, makes you rage. And whosoever is deceived because it's deceiving you is not wise, because you're not gonna look at life. It don't matter what is going on in life, good or bad, your perception is gonna be altered. It alters your perception and deceived you. And this is why when people use drugs or alcohol, they say their trouble fly away. They say their problem fly away. He's the burden, he eases the guilt. You don't need to ease your guilt. You need to face the guilt and change your life and stop behaving crazy. So we go to the next article here. More on that later. So this is an article. Now this year I gave you a scientific piece. Now I'm going to give you an opinion piece. Most actually, my commentary so far is my opinion from what I've observed from a child until now, growing up in Jamaica, living in England, and living here in America, and observing people who use marijuana. Not impressed. Well, this is an opinion piece that was written in USA Today by Jeff Hunt, and it's an opinion piece. So this is opinion of what's going on. And I'll just, for clarity, and I'll tell you who Jeff Hunt is. Jeff Hunt is public policy at Colorado Christian University. So Jeff Hunt has a Christian leaning. So I want to give that out there to you, so you make sure you know where he's coming from. So last week, Senator Cory Booker introduced Marijuana Justice Act in an effort, and Cory Booker most naturally is a senator from New Jersey. So a Marijuana Act in an effort to legalize marijuana across the nation and penalize local communities that want nothing to do with the dangerous drugs. So he doesn't want to make it legal where you can just use it and not be arrested. I guess he want to punish people who don't want to promote it in their communities. Anyhow, it says this is the furthest reaching marijuana legalization effort to date and marks another sad moment in our nation's embrace of a drug that will have generational consequences. Our country is facing a drug epidemic. Legalizing recreational marijuana will do nothing that Senator Booker expects. We heard many of these same promises in 2012 when Colorado legalized recreational marijuana. In the years since, Colorado has seen an increase in marijuana-related traffic deaths, poison control calls, and emergency room visits. The marijuana black market has increased in Colorado, not decreased, and numerous Colorado marijuana regulators have been indicted for corruption. In 2012, we were promised funds from marijuana taxes would benefit our communities, particular schools. Dr. Harry Bull, the superintendent of the Cherry Creek schools, one of the largest school districts in the state, says so far the only thing that legalization of marijuana has brought to our schools has been marijuana. In fiscal year 2016, marijuana tax revenue resulted in $156 million. The total tax revenue of Colorado is $13 billion, making marijuana just 1.18% of the state total tax revenue. The cost of marijuana legalization in public awareness campaign, law enforcement, healthcare treatment, addiction recovery, and preventative work is an unknown cost to date. We'll come back to that. Senator Booker states in his reason for legalizing marijuana is to reduce marijuana arrest happening so much in our community, targeting certain communities, poor communities, minority communities. It is a noble cause to seek to reduce incarceration rates among these communities, but legalizing marijuana has had the opposite effect. According to Colorado Department of Public Safety, arrests in Colorado of Black and Latino youth for marijuana possession have increased 58% and 28%. The blacks outpacing, I guess, respectively, after legalization. This means that Black and Latino youth are being arrested more for marijuana possession after it became legal. Furthermore, a vast majority of Colorado's marijuana business are concentrated in neighborhoods of color. Leaders from these communities, many of whom initially voted to legalize recreational marijuana, often speak out about the negative impact of these businesses. Senator Booker released his bill just a few days after the Washington Post reported on a study by the Review of Economic Studies that found college students with access to recreational cannabis on an average earn worse grades and fail classes at a higher rate. Getting off marijuana especially helps lower performance students who were at risk of dropping out. Since legalizing marijuana, Colorado's youth marijuana use rate is the highest in the nation, 74% higher than the national average, according to the Rocky Mountain High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area report. This is having terrible negative effects on the education of our youth. If Senator Booker is interested in serving poor minority communities, legalizing is one of the worst decisions. There is much work to be done to reduce incarceration and recidivism, but flooding communities with drugs will do nothing but exacerbate the problem. The true impact of marijuana on our community is just starting to be learned. The negative consequence of legalizing recreational marijuana will be felt for generations. I encourage Senator Booker to spend time with parents, educators, law enforcement, counselors, community leaders, pastors, and legislators before rushing to legalize marijuana nationally. We've seen the effect of in our neighborhood in Colorado, and this is nothing we wish upon the nation. That's the end of the article. That's a nice little opinion piece there. So I have some commentary. And I'm going to talk about what we just read here because a few things we've read here. And when you think about this, right? Imagine you're going through your day and you have a child. You're a young man, you have a child. You probably finished high school, probably did 2-4 years of college, whatever. And you have responsibility. And you're under pressure, probably you lose your job and you start smoking marijuana. Marijuana, it doesn't give you an incentive to go back to work because your life is good while using marijuana. Things are great. You can't pay child support or you can't maintain your family, but your life is still going to be good. No matter how bad your life is, it's going to be good under the use of marijuana. And that's herein is part of the problem where they talk about with the college students that are having higher rates of dropout and failure on the use of marijuana. Because if your failure, it doesn't matter because you have something that you can use to alter your perception to make you feel and know, at least you perceive, that life is good. Life is all right. And that's one of the things that I want you to watch over the years. That what it does, it doesn't lead to more excellence. Now, some people use it and they'll still pass and they'll go get a job. But many others will use it and the rate of unemployment will be very high. This concept of going to the grind every day and going to the job every day will be very low. They don't like that. And you can go places and you will go places like Jamaica. You see all these young men just hanging out. Scary. Just hanging out in the middle of the day. To me, the scariest neighborhoods are the neighborhoods that you go and there's young men. On the flip side, it could be young women, but if they're young women, sometimes they're prostituting themselves or whoring out themselves. But young men just hanging out in the middle of the day. It's the middle of the day. Why are you hanging out? You look healthy. You're not sick. You don't like you have a disability. You look strong. Why are you hanging out in the middle of the day? And the answer for that is marijuana. It'll make you hang out in the middle of the day because you have no responsibility. And if you feel worthless, just smoke more marijuana. You'll feel great. You'll feel wise. You feel like you have it figured out. All these other foolish guys have to go to work and take care of the family. You can just live life and be happy under the use of marijuana. And this is one of the realities. So I'll take some of the points here from Jeff here, as Jeff here thunders in his small little piece here about legalization. So as you know, Cory Booker here from New Jersey is trying to legalize marijuana across the nation and penalize places that don't allow it. So that means everybody have to come in line. But notice here the tax is 1.18% of the budget because the underground or black market marijuana is still flowing. And what they're saying here is that it's great it's going to be good because we're going to tax it. We're going to legalize it and tax it. And that's going to be cheaper than in all the law enforcement and the war on drugs. This is what America has been selling themselves. But here's the problem. Marijuana comes with various different other problems. So far, there's an awareness campaign that they're running to try to make people aware that it has negative effects. There's law enforcement. There's healthcare treatment. Marijuana, as I've covered here in the past, I remember last year I covered a program where I was talking about marijuana is one of the hardest things to get off. And one of the reasons why I believe that is hard, because again, it makes your trouble fly away. And secondly, it has a positive view. Most people view marijuana as great. It's like Kellogg's cornflakes. And the addiction recovery is another problem. Also, many people start using marijuana will end up on other harder drugs. That's a reality. And then the other costs that involve in the damage of our young people. So that's part of it. The other thing that is interesting here is that what they did is that they put a lot of the marijuana dispensary in the poorer communities. This is a sad thing that they did. This is a wickedness. What they need to do, they need not to do anything. What I was going to say, they don't need to put it anywhere. But if they're going to put it somewhere, they need to put it in the richest communities. Let them have it. They're the ones that are always running their mouths. But they put it in the poor communities. And that's sad. Because if you notice what they do, it's just part of the wickedness of America that speaks like the dragon. What America does is that it takes the worst things that you can have and pile it up in the poor communities. So after you beaten up the Native American Indians for years, you say, oh, we're going to do something for you guys. And they said, what are you going to do for us? Oh, we're going to give you the ability to do casino in your area. And you're going to own casino. One of the worst, most cursed thing a human being can do to his fellow human being is just destroy him with gambling. Yeah, you're going to manage it. And that's what we do for you. It's a gift from the American public to pay you back for all the wickedness we have done for you. Something that is devastating the life of others. You're going to manage that for us. Anyhow, so when you go in those communities, you see gambling, you see cannabis dispensaries, tobacco dispensaries, alcohol dispensaries. I missed two. You see all the dispensaries, everything that is worthless and low life. That's what they put in the poor communities. And I think this is where pastors and community leaders, especially leaders who call themselves activists in these communities, need to be looking out and stand up against these evil businesses that they tend to pile up in these communities. I think I miss a few, but you know them, you see them. Oh, the cheap food. You want to get some of the cheap Chinese food, you go into the black poor communities, poor white, poor black communities. And they're just getting bigger and bigger, eating all that cheap junk food. And they just pile them up in those communities. So somebody said, but isn't it poor people, they're normally more lower on the moral scale and they like those things around them? Possibly, but we are sinners. It seems to just put them there. At least that's my observation. They pile them up in those communities. You want to find garbage, you go to the poor communities. And that's where it is. And poor communities seem to don't police themselves because they're such impoverished that they'll do anything to get out of their poverty, even to destroy the young people around them. So if you have more dispensaries in the poor communities, you have more access. More access would mean more users in the poor communities. So that's where the problem comes in. And that's why there's a problem with this, as I call this morning here, the marijuana devastating effect. Because now you're adding something else to the poor communities. Now you have a whole bunch of young people walking around with altered perception and going to have problem with the next thing he says here, with the police. Because marijuana arrests have increased in Colorado amongst young black and Latino. 58% for blacks and 29% for Latinos, because most naturally you would have more of these dispensaries in the black community and probably a little bit less in the Hispanic community. In the black community, because of rap and other things like that, there's more glorification of this type of thing. And even the police is not per se targeted, which a lot of times, the police have a bigger presence in the black community. You're going to find that in the black community, what's going to happen is that if a person have an altered they're altered in their behavior, their physical behavior, because their nerves have been affected by the drug, they're more likely to get pulled over or to get stopped. And if you look at some of the shooting that's happened with black men, a lot of the shooting, they were on some type of drug. And that's another thing that they're not talking about. That is not just the targeting, but it's another thing is also the person's behavior. Because you're not in the right mind. Even though I think they let off the lady that I shot somebody somewhere over there in the Midwest. Guy came out of a car acting erratic and she shot the guy, and I think she got off, if I serve memory, last month, because he's acting erratic because he had drugs in the system. So when you're acting strange, you're more a target. And if you notice in many communities, if you have a township and a borough, I think I'm saying it right, normally the black part of the town would have more police and more police surveillance because there's more activity. And that's just the reality. If there's more activity, there's more connection. You're more, touching, dealing with the police. There's more possibility. If you have drugs in your system, you're more a bit. It's just a higher possibility for you to get arrested. Any of the numbers prove it here. They have more arrests for the young black people. So it's not really helping the black community. It's putting it down. In a church that I'm associate pastor in over in New York, in Harlem, every now and then I would come out in the front of the church and I'll look to my right and down the road across the next block. So, the road that the church is on is a kind of quiet road, brownstone. But every time I come out of the church, I look to the right. I always see police sirens, the police lights on and police cars down the block. So all the time I thought there was a police precinct, but it never clicked in my mind that why would the police have their lights on? But there's always police down there. So I got so used to seeing police down there that I was just sure that there was a police, station or precinct down the road across the way because I've never been over that side. So one day I was talking to somebody and I said, oh, I wonder what's going on. And they said, oh, yeah, you know what that is? And I said, no, what is it? Oh, those high-rise buildings, they said they're projects. So I said, really? And they said, oh, you see that police down there, those police down there? Oh, they're just they're just busy. So I say, I've never been there and not see police with their lights on across that way. Never. I just found that fascinating. And I was just blown away by that idea because in my mind, I assumed there was a police station because I've never, ever walked out, at least to my memory, and not see police cars over there. The place is hot as anything else. I can't believe that you could have so many calls to just one area that every time I walk out and I look, there's police. And sometimes there's even like 4 or 5 cars. So I thought there's so much cars, but then there's never clicked in my mind. Why would they have their lights on, blaring, and sometimes rushing over there? And it just never thought, I thought they were just rushing to change shift. So anyhow, so it wasn't that. It was literally these guys, the place is hot. So when you have that much brush with the law and you increase the amount of marijuana use, they'll have more reason to pull you over because you're acting strange. So this is why I believe these numbers are up. Because in some of these neighborhoods, you don't need to encourage them with more legalization and more drugs. Less drugs, the better. They already have enough drugs to kill themselves and to be killing each other. Why you want to give them more? But Cory Booker from Newark, he wants to give them more drugs so that he can make the poor communities better. I get them locked up less, but here with numbers are showing they're getting locked up more. And again, if you look at this there, they want to do this, but they're noticing that, and I'm going to say this last thing before I go to 1 or 2 more texts. Since legalization, Colorado's youth marijuana use rate is the highest in the nation. So the state that say we are the most liberal, the most free, do what you want to do state has the highest amount of marijuana use in the state, and yet the effect is that the college students the more access the college students have to marijuana, their grades decline and they fail classes at a higher rate because again you have something that just think about that idea again. Marijuana is proven to alter your reasoning and your decision making. So you have anything to do with literature, you have anything to do with sciences, and somebody's going to tell me the marijuana use is going to make them do better, where this thing here is altering your reasoning ability. If it's altering your reasoning ability, that's enough evidence to state that this thing is is not good. So remember, it affects your memory and your reasoning circuits, because marijuana is a nerve vine. It sedates the nerves. This is why about 60% of men that use marijuana will have erectile dysfunction. They'll have problem with long-term problem with erection. Why? Because it affects the nerves. Anything that sedates and alters and destroy or affect the nerve will give you problem with any part of nerve in your body. And so this is why it will help somebody with epilepsy. But how long? This is why I don't believe in using it even for that. Because it helping them, but it's making them drunk. Because it does that to the body. So my belief is always to find something that will not have the sedate, the drunk effect. Sorry for the word I'm using there. So just think about those type of information, and when you think about that, you can see where the problem lies when it come on, or the way I see where the problem lies. So when the Bible says, "Wine is a mocker and strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise," it is no surprise to me that the young people that are using it does not do better in school, because something that will affect your memory and your reasoning circuitry of your brain will affect your schooling ability, because you just don't see things reasoning. And I'll say this before reading our text. Just think about this other idea here, that when you normally talk to people that uses on a regular basis cannabis, their perception and their reasonability is so crazy. It is so skewed that their reason is not concrete. Their reasoning is not concrete. And I've not seen somebody that I've ever come along and I talk to them, and when especially when the cannabis is at the high rate in their brain, where, short after they use it, I can still smell it on them. Their reasoning perception is so altered that is unreal. And so this is why I encourage you not, N-O-T, do not use marijuana. Find other options for your problem. Find options that, like if you have been taking chemotherapy, you're vomiting, there's various different options of ginger that you can use that will help you, that have been proven to be more effective than any drug. And so that's important to note that there's gingers have been proven more effective in its various different forms when it comes on to vomiting than any known drugs. So we're not talking about, there's natural and then there's drugs and the drugs is better. It's been proven ginger is better. There's many natural remedies that have been proven. I believe all of them across the board, depends on what you're looking at, are better. You just have to find the one that is better. I believe that there's options in nature that God has provided that is not a tree of the knowledge of good and evil. There's just a tree that will give you good for any disease, whether it be Alzheimer's, whether it be Parkinson's, epileptic seizures, whatever it is. You can find things like Bacal skullcap that will help a child with things like epilepsy. There's other herbs you can find that will help, that will not make the child a drug addict while trying to help them stop shaking or having seizures. Proverbs chapter 23, verse 29 through 35 simply states that, "Who hath woes, who hath sorrows, who hath contentions, who hath babbling, who hath wound without cause, who hath redness of eyes," and you could apply that to marijuana also. "They that tarry long at the wine, they that go seek mixed wine. Look not thou upon the wine when it is red, when it giveth its color in the cup, when it moveth all itself aright. At last it biteth like a serpent, and stingeth like a adder. Thine eyes will behold strange women, and thy heart will utter perverse things. Yea, thou shalt be as they that lie down in the midst of the sea, and as he that light upon the top of a mast. They have stricken me, shalt thou say, and I was not sick. They have beaten me, and I felt it not. When I shall awake, I will seek it yet again." That's the addiction speaking to this person, as Solomon wrote about him. So I encourage you, stay away from cannabis. Find other natural remedies that are not dangerous and don't alter your perception and make you unreasonable. and God will bless you. God will bless you in your search, and you will find. Let us pray. Thank you, Lord, again for your love towards us and the blessings of your Lord, of knowledge from your word, of the wisdom of your word, and even of the scientific knowledge as we peer into the plant and see what each plant does and find the ones that are best for us. May you bless us, dear Lord. Heal our bodies, heal our minds. We pray for Christ's sake. Amen. Thanks for being with me on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you tomorrow morning, where we shall talk about current events. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.